bringing you nothing but the hits right here on Radio 44. And today I did tell you that we do have someone very special in the studio with us, Dr. Bimal Kantaria, the chairman of United Asian Network. Good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, Jit. How are you this morning?
I'm doing great. How are you?
We're well, thank you.
All right. If you know what, I think for the uninitiated, if you could introduce yourself.
Thanks, Jit. My name is Bimal Kantaria. I run a company called Elgin Kenya Limited with my brother and sister. It's an agriculture supplies company, and we've been around since 1898. One of the oldest Indian companies in this country, and I'm the fourth generation in the company. And in my spare time, I run an organization. I chair an organization called the United Asian Network, and also I do other things like I'm the chairman of the agriculture sector in this country, chairman of the Fertilizer Association of Kenya. So doing lots of other stuff besides work. Keeping myself busy.
Do you ever sleep? That's the question.
My wife doesn't think so at all.
Well, I'm not too surprised. So yeah, I mean, considering your great grandfather, right, started the company, so that means you're the fourth generation. So you've seen this country, your family rather has seen this country transition to where it is right now. What do you think about how Asians have influenced it, and what do you think of where we are right now?
So what is interesting, Jit, is I don't know if you know, but in the 1950s and 40s, the Indians had two political parties in this country. We were so involved in politics in this country. One was an offshoot of the Indian National Congress from India.
Okay.
In 1963, when we got independence, we sort of merged into KANU.
Right.
And that was probably the end of our political journey. But in the last sort of 5 to 10 years, you've seen a massive increase in political awareness amongst the Asians in this country, and we want to re-engage with the political system and national engagement. So I think it's come around a full circle now.
Yes.
So it's an interesting place where we are right now. I think this new constitution has given us much more rights as a population, and you can see our young generation, Gen Z, feel part of this country. They were on the streets the other day.
Yes.
So I think we're seeing really a revival of interest in national development from the Asian community.
Yeah, that's very interesting. And now speaking about that, like you mentioned, you chair the organization, the United Asian Network. So what actually inspired the formation of this organization?
So this was during COVID. What we realized, there were three of us, Ashif Kasam, Dr. Amit Thakur, and myself, realized that during COVID, the Asian community wasn't plugged into the national system of COVID, right? So we got together with all the chairs of the Asian organization, said, how do we as Asian community talk about COVID in our communities, look after each other, share tips, and that's how UAN was formed. After COVID, we realized that we have a really interesting product on our hand. There is no single organization in this country which is representing Asians on a national level. We're all doing our little bits, Oshwas, Lohanas, Ismaili, we do our little bits, but nobody's talking on behalf of the Asian community on a national platform. And we're the last ones now, Jit. If you look at the Somali community, Mount Kenya caucus, Western Kenya, all of them for decades have been having these kind of groups that they used to influence decision making, right. And we're the only ones who are not. So that's what chairs of communities told us. Let's start talking with one another. It's important. That's how UAN was created. So
would I be right to say that the key objective was to unify the communities together?
Very much so. We're in silos, and this was a very typical British thing to do: divide and rule. Unfortunately, our community just went our own ways. Everybody was doing their own thing. What the problem is, Jit, is that our population went from 200,000 Asians in independence, we're down to about 40 or 50 or 60,000. Now it's completely shrunk. What is going to happen to the Asian community in 20, 30, 40 years? Are we going to be here? Are we going to be any relevance? Are the youngsters going to stay in this country? Do they feel part of this country? And that's why organizations like ours are looking in the long term. What are we going to be in 10 or 20 or 30 years as a community? And how do we make ourselves relevant to national development?
Excellent. We'll be back right after this. We're going to be talking about national cohesion and, of course, the Leadership Summit. Don't go anywhere. We have Dr. Bimal Kantaria, the chairman of UAN, United Asian Network. Now, Dr. Bimal, I think one of the most important things that we need to talk about is unity. Do you really think we can achieve national unity? And what do you think is causing this rift between all these various communities right here in Nairobi, or Kenya for that matter?
So there is a historic context to this. First of all, of course, I mentioned about the British divide and rule policy, but also our own communities. We're split with cultural, religious. There's so many breakages in our own community. If you look at Muslim, Hindu, Christian, a big break. North India, South India, big break, East, West. So there are geographical differences, obviously, in all of us. But in Kenya, we're only 50,000-60,000 people. So what we are trying to do as UNN is not only connect all the religions. So we have the Goans with us, we have the Ismailis, we have the Boras, we have the Shahs, Luhana, whatever. But we also have people from Kisumu, Mombasa, and Nakuru, all of us part of UAN. In fact, we're starting our very first new chapter in Mombasa in next month. We're launching a new one. We're starting a new one in Nakuru. We're starting one in Kisumu. And the idea is to have regional UANs who are then coalescing the Asian community in these towns together into a national framework. So we don't want to be only Nairobi, we want to be national. And to be honest, to break these boundaries is hard. When we started UN, the biggest resistance we had was from the elderly generation of our communities. They said, we shouldn't be involving ourselves in national issues, politics, we don't want to get involved. These are the old thinking. You ask a Gen Z today or millennial, what are you, Asian first or Kenyan first? They all say we're Kenyans. We want to be in this country. We're born here, third, fourth generation. This is our country. We have nowhere else to go. So whatever we do, we must do it together in Kenya. And I think that's where the generational change is happening. That's when the mindset is changing. This Mandamano, we saw it loud and clear that we are first Kenyan, then Asian. And that's what we have to think now. What is going to be our future of the Asians in this country? And I'm really reaching out to all the youth in this country, youngsters. You are the future of this country, and we need you to be part of the agenda of discussion. Be part of UAN. We have a big youth group now. We want to hear from you. We want to understand your thoughts on the future of your generation and future generations of Asians in this country. Talk to us. We need you to talk to us. Jit, you're a millennial, right?
Yes.
I mean, what do you think about the future of Asians in this country? Forget what's happened in the past. It's happened. But what are your children going to do? What your grandchildren are going to do? These are the big questions UANA is asking. So on Saturday when we have a big summit, these are the big questions we are asking. Where are we going to be? And who is going to take us there? The problem, Jit, at the moment, we're competing with big factions. There's in this country, there are big tribes. We all know the tribes. I don't have to mention them. We are 0.01% of the population. We're tiny. But yet, we contribute 40 to 50% of this GDP of this country.
Indeed.
Taxes come from us. So, the big economic power, how do we translate that to a voice?
Okay, well done. I mean, I completely agree, because yes, we've been here, we've definitely made our bones to make this country what it is, but exactly like what you're saying, but where do we have a voice? So now could you actually elaborate a little more about the Leadership Summit?
So this is the first Asian Leader Summit ever to happen in this country since maybe independence. I don't even know when the last one was done. We've invited every single community leader, business leader to come to Ramgarhia, East African Ramgarhia in Pangani. We're very grateful to them for hosting us as part of their contribution. It starts at 9 o'clock in the morning. It's open to everybody. Jit, we've got 350, 400 people already registered. So every single community leader is coming from across the country, in Nakuru, Embu, Meru. We've invited everybody, and the 3 or 4 different things we're going to talk about. Where did we come from, and where are we heading? How do we contribute to national development as the Asian community? How do we bring ourselves together? How do we bring national cohesion within the Asian community? If ourselves, we don't get ourselves integrated together, how are we going to talk to the national public? So we need to first sort ourselves out before we go out there. Of course, some of the important things is networking. I bet, some of these presidents don't even know who the other chairmen are. I bet you they don't know who chairmen in Mombasa, Kisumu are.
Yes.
So just by bringing them in, introducing them, exchanging business cards, it'll break down a lot of these barriers, a lot of suspicions. We're just normal people in this country. So I think this is going to be an excellent opportunity for us to meet each other, talk openly. We have 4 tracks. Everybody's going to talk about subjects. We've got something like 20, 25 speakers. It's a huge event. And if you're not coming, then what are you doing? You need to come. You need to register. Go to our website, uan.co.uk. Register, come. It's free. But we want to hear from you.
Excellent, excellent. We'll be back right after this, and we're going to be talking about the biggest challenge in Kenya right now. And we do have Dr. Bimal Kantaria, the chairman of United Asian Network. Now, Dr. Kantaria, I think this is it's a question all of us Kenyans are asking. What do you think is the biggest problem right now with the Kenyan economy?
It's very simple, Jit. You know, we in the last 20 years, we have gone for rapid development, for infrastructure development. Before that, we had very little roads. Mombasa was a mess, ports were a mess, airports were a mess. So the last 20 years, governments pushed for infrastructure development. Now, other countries have been doing this over generations, hundreds of years, they've developed the infrastructure. We are trying to do it in a very short span with very little capital. So what we had to do, we had to go outside and borrow the money. Right, so obviously now the problem is we've got a good infrastructure relative to other African countries, but we've borrowed short term for it. Now obviously somebody has to pay for it, so I don't think we should be complaining too loud. We all wanted nice roads, we wanted nice airports, nice ports. Somebody's got to pay for it, and now the penny has dropped that we've done it too quickly, we've borrowed too much. And now we have to pay for it. So I don't think we should blame government for it. The population wanted these developments, and we wanted it in a very short time. We were impatient. They performed, the government performed, but now we have to pay for it. Obviously, there's a big question of how much we borrowed, where the money went, all that sort of questions, which is obviously above our mandate. But you can see what's happened in the last 20 years. If you remember the bleak old days of the 80s and 90s, particularly 90s, there was potholes everywhere. Mombasa port used to take you 2 weeks to release your consignments. It was a disaster. Now Mombasa, you can get it out, your container out in 3-4 days. Right? All this took a lot of capital. Right. So we have to pay for it, and unfortunately, whether we like it or not, the next couple of years are going to be tough. Higher taxes have to be there. We heard Badi speak yesterday. The CS talk about lowering taxes, but it's not going to happen anytime soon. It's going to be a tough couple of years, I suspect, coming forward.
How do you think we can actually overcome this?
So it has to. There's a big balance you have to take. You have to cut back expenditure drastically. But if you cut back expenditure, what happens? Unemployment goes up. Unemployment goes up because government has to release some workers. Right. Those guys are going to be in the streets, so we're going to have higher crime. So we have to be very careful on how we cut back, and you have to cut back slowly. Cut back, not do more recruitment in government. Taxes, unfortunately, will have to go up because you can't keep borrowing. If you're a good businessman, you can't keep going to the bank and borrow money. You have to put in your own equity, right? To stabilize your company. Your gearing ratio. Your gearing ratio, exactly. So we have to, unfortunately, pay a little bit more taxes. But I suspect we've got a decent CS in Treasury now, a good finance minister. He's a clever guy. I suspect he's right. In the next maybe 2 to 3 years, if we get our tax revenue sorted out, then after 2 or 3 years, maybe we'll see some little bit of reduction in taxes. But I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon.
Okay, all right, how dear. Okay, so I think let's take one more short break, and then I believe we still have to talk about the Leadership Summit. Yes. I'm quite interested in some of the topics that you're going to be talking about on that. So we're taking a short break, and we'll be back right after this. Now, Doctor, if you could actually go ahead and tell me one of the most important things that I think a lot of people are asking right now. So what are some of the key topics, themes that we're going to be hearing at the Leadership Summit, and who are some of the key speakers?
So there are big themes we're looking at to discuss. One is, of course, national cohesion amongst the Asian community. We talk about unity. We talk about economic well-being, peace promotion, and national development from the Asian community. So we've got some excellent speakers. A keynote speaker, of course, is Dr. Bimal Shah from BIDCO, chairman of BIDCO. We all know him. He's one of our most eminent leaders in our country, so he's going to be talking. We've got people like Ashok Bhai Shah from AP Insurance. We've got Sheena Raikundalia. We've got some really excellent speakers. We've got community leaders speaking. So we've got a multitude of business and community leaders who are going to be talking from all the communities across the countries. And the idea is, just somebody mentioned this morning, let the chai flow and the conversation will follow. And I think that's going to be the game. Let's all get together. Let's all just talk to one another, and answers will come. The end of the summit, Jit, we've got to have a 10-point communique on the way forward. And of course, most of that is about how do we get involved in the national development agenda? How do we get ourselves in that space? How do we communicate with each other? I'll give an example. One of the big things that came out was if you look at the Smiley community, one of the best, well-run organizations in this country, have a civic day in 2 weeks' time. They've invited the whole Asian community to come. So the Hindu Council is being part of it, UANA is part of it. And I thought, isn't that wonderful? Isn't that exactly what we want in this country? Doesn't matter if the Smileys are organizing, but they've had the courtesy to invite all of us to come.
Excellent.
We've got Navratri coming. So this time we've invited even the Smileys, Boras, come and play Navratri with us. Right? So this is what exactly we're trying to achieve by bringing communities together and removing these barriers that are between all of us. I think it's nuts that 50,000 population can't talk to each other. And I'm just proud what UN is trying to do. We're trying to break down these barriers, bring us close together. Our histories are the same. We're all from India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Nepal. We're all the same histories. Why is it that we come to Africa, we suddenly, in our little cocoons, just go to India? Nobody cares if you're a Lohana or a Kerala. Nobody cares. We're all Indians. And we think same thing here. We should be Kenyans first and Asians second. And that's what I hope the summit is going to achieve.
Excellent. So as an attendee of the Leadership Summit, what will I learn? What will I walk out feeling, okay, today I am aware of this that I didn't know yesterday?
Yeah, so we are going to address tough questions. And one of the tough questions is, what is the state of Asian community in this country? Whilst the headlines show that we're a rich community per capita, we've got a 30 to 40% poverty level in our communities. After COVID, lots of elders left us, they passed away, a lot of people lost their jobs, companies closed down. Most of our communities are spending 30 to 40% of our revenues feeding our Asian communities. You won't believe the welfare programs in some of our communities is massive. School feeding, education, fees. Lots of our communities now spending a lot of our money from the communities looking after each other. Nobody's talking about that poverty gap. We all think everybody's doing well. No, it's not true. We worked at the UN, 30 to 40% of our population is living below or at poverty level. Anybody earning 100,000 shillings and less a month is basically just managing.
Yes.
We have to pay our private school fees, private healthcare. It's tough at 100,000, and there's a lot of our population living at that level. So these are the tough questions we're going to answer that day. What are we going to do about those kind of people? What are we going to do with Gen Z? Gen Z are upset. We know they're upset. They have this issue. What is their future? So when you go to this summit, these are the tough questions we're going to be addressing. We're going to be asking, why are we all divided? Why are we not talking to each other? And we're trying to find answers. Of course, one day seminar isn't enough. So we're going to have multitude. This is going to be an annual event for us. Every 6 months, we're going to have a review. But we're starting the journey today, on Saturday. So we need you to come. Please come. Please let your voice be heard. Don't sit at home and then complain next week, oh, nobody's listening to me. Why is nobody doing anything about Asian community? This is your time to make a mark. Stand up and make yourselves heard. We've got 20, 30 excellent speakers. We have got Q&A. We've got a communique. If you're not there, then I would say you're missing out. Come and talk. We're giving you a free opportunity.
And of course, if you do want to register, simply go to uan.co.ke. That's it. We will be back right after this. And we're going to be talking about the long-term goals for United Asian Network. We've got a question over here, Doctor, from Hina Permar. And she's asking, I believe in the olden days, we used to be united. What changed? And she's also saying, I'm really interested in the mentorship opportunities that the well-off in business world are giving. Not money, but knowledge. Our kids need mentors.
Yeah, good questions, Hina. Those are excellent questions. So let me tell you, again, historic context. The 1971 Uganda exodus made a big impact to our psychology as Asians in Africa generally. Suddenly we were told in 90 days, get out of a country. It shook the Kenyan Asians dramatically. Of course, a lot of Asians left Kenya. Obviously, Uganda was a big problem. Tanzania was a big problem. That shook our psyche psychologically, and we still haven't recovered from that to quite an extent. Second, when post-independence, I think the national political parties took over the Indian political parties, so suddenly we had nobody to guide us as leaders. And thirdly, we all went into our cocoons after that. So everybody went into their own communities and forgot that we are one people. So yeah, there's a historic connection. The mentorship program you spoke about, Hina, is interesting. If you come on Saturday, we have got a guy called Vishal Agarwal who's coming to talk about mentorship for young people in business. He runs a PE fund and talking about funding Asian businesses. So got a lot of interesting people coming on that day. Finally, the future of I hope the UAN and Asian community is that after Saturday we're going to have this continuous engagement with one another. Every year we have this forum. Every 6 months we're going to do a review session, but we have things like the elders forum. We've invited 15-20 elders from various communities to sit on our board. We have a board of directors. We have a youth forum. We've got a professional forum. There's so many different areas where you can join if you want to be, if you want to join as a corporate. It'll cost you 50,000. Individuals cost you 3,000 bob to join UAN. It's very cheap. We just want you to be part of UAN. It's not necessarily about a subscription on the money. Join us, make your voice heard. If you have an opinion, come and tell us. But if you don't get involved, how do we know what you're thinking? So please, it's important. This is your organization. UN doesn't belong to any one person. It belongs to the communities in general. And it can only move forward and prosper if you yourselves get involved. So if you want to join, become a member of UAN, go to our website, download the membership form, send your M-Pesa check. It's very cheap. 50,000 corporate. Individuals, I think it's 20,000 or 3,000 individual. And if you're a professional, we have a professional network. There's like 50 or 70 people on that network. We have professional networking sessions. So it's really vibrant. We've got a couple activities every month. So it's really excellent. So please come and join us and see you on Saturday.
Excellent. And if you could very briefly say, what are the long-term objectives of UAN?
Long term, what I would be really proud of is if we get some political leaders in place who are Asians, who are thinking about the Asian voice. If we get more and more of our communities doing joint projects, that'll be wonderful. And just to be more cohesive, more united, speaking in one voice, I think that'll be really a fantastic achievement if UN does that. Thank you.
Dr. Bimal Kantaria, absolute pleasure to have had you over here, and I think it was it's always good when someone can openly talk about what we know and what we feel inside, and you literally became the voice of all of us today.
Thank you, Chet. Thanks for inviting me. Wonderful talking to you.
Likewise, and definitely going to see you on Saturday.
Thank you, sir.